Welcome to The Point of View. This is your favorite current affairs show on television. On The Point of View, we pick the right topics, get the right guests, ask them the relevant questions on issues that matter to you. We have a big show for you tonight on Ghana's dwindling oil fortunes. Ghana hit oil sometime 2007. We drilled our first oil 2011. We grew by 14%. The world was talking about Ghana as one of the new tigers of Africa. The projection was that as of now, we should be producing over 400,000 barrels per day from at least 5 oil fields. Well, that hasn't really panned out the way we planned. We produced barely 130,000 barrels per day from 3 oil fields. In the past 4 years, there's been no new oil agreement, and we've had a 4th consecutive year of a reduction in output. So what is going on with our oil sector? Tonight, we delve into the latest PIAC annual report, which highlights a very precarious situation for Ghana's oil, and we look at it from very different perspectives. Stay with us. Welcome back. So tonight on The Point of View, we are asking what is happening to Ghana's oil and why is the sector in such decline? I'll be speaking to a couple of people from the Public Interest and Accountability Committee of PIAC in the person of Mark Ajeman, who's a technical manager at the PIAC. I'll also speak to Ben Boache of the Africa Center for Energy Policy and other people. But to set the scene for us, over the weekend, the PIAC organized a workshop to share highlights of this report with media men. CT News was represented by Nathan Kwao and Niamate Kanaku. They came through with this report, which summarizes the situation facing our oil sector.
The session was to engage journalists for them to gain a deeper understanding of major issues in the petroleum sector and also to create a platform to discuss PIAC's statutory reports and key developments in the upstream industry. According to the report, Ghana's oil production fell from 71.44 million barrels in 2019 to 48.25 million barrels in 2023. Representing an average decline of 9.2%. Isaac Dramina is coordinator at PIAC, and he spoke to City News on the consistent fall in Ghana's oil production over the last 4 years, as indicated in PIAC's 2023 report.
If you look at Jubilee, without the addition of the Jubilee Southeast, you would have expected that, having been in production for about 12 plus years, you would see the field plateau and begin to show a decline. So any decline in the numbers of Jubilee would not have been a surprise. But thanks to the addition of the Jubilee Southeast in the second half of 2023, we have still seen better numbers for Jubilee. Certainly, the Sankofa Ginyame field is a more gas field than oil field. The oil we get from SGN is associated oil. It's more predominantly a gas field. So we expect more gas from a field than oil. So, I mean, it's understandable. But the concern is particularly the 10 field. And through the process for the publication of the report, engagements with stakeholders, GMPC, TALO, and then PC, we get indications of efforts being made to arrest the decline on that field, to see better numbers in the first half of 2024 and subsequently full report 2024.
The PIAC report stated that there had not been a signed petroleum agreement between 2018 and 2023, and in line with that, Mr. Dramina spoke on the importance of such agreements to Ghana's fortunes in the petroleum sector.
The less the activity on the field, the more diminished the chances of us making a find. Because, you know, this is a high-risk, highly capital-intensive industry. Okay. So before an investor invests, they should work so hard at the data level to give them some comfort and assurance that if they should sink a well, they will not find a dry hole. Because usually sinking a well would cost you between $50 and $70 million. If it goes ultra deep, it could even cost them more.
The chairman of PIAC, Emerita Professor Elizabeth Adefio Shandoff, highlighted the committee's need to engage the media, who can in turn educate the general public on PIAC's work and functions.
When you understand the issues in the report, then it's for you to write stories based on them, targeting your audience, depending on their mandate as media. They will know the nature and the specific news to carry concerning our findings in the report.
Mr. Isaac Dramina, who's coordinator at PIAC, went on to call for greater support from the government and other stakeholders in the petroleum sector, such as Parliament, to ensure that Ghana would benefit more in the long term from operations in the oil and gas industry.
Last year, we had that engagement, and we saw the progress each of them had made, the number of recommendations that had been implemented. PIAC looks forward to strengthening this collaboration, but we look forward to even stronger support from Parliament. That as we meet the Finance Committee to present the highlights of the report to them in the presence of all the stakeholders that are relevant, we look forward to very dispassionate discussions of the issues and very pragmatic solutions arrived at these fora, so that the challenges that have been identified would be dealt with.
The Public Interest and Accountability Committee, PIAC, has been meeting journalists and media men to discuss the highlights of its 2023 report. The report has been focusing on aspects such as Ghana's declining oil production and various other things that PIAC has been observing in the 2023 calendar year. The committee wants a lot of support from the executive to ensure that the recommendations are respected and followed through, so that in all, Ghanaians will benefit from the resource that is oil that the nation has been blessed with, and from all the activities that are happening in the petroleum sector. Reporting from Koforidua, my name is Nathan Kwao.
So that was Nathan Kwao's report that he filed with Ni Amate Kanaku at a training, or from a training or a program organized by the PIAC. Now, we're speaking to Mark Ajiman, who is a technical manager at PIAC, and Ben Boachi. Gentlemen, you are welcome. Mark, I wanted you to talk about this chart because from a layman's point of view, it looks like something happened after 2019 where we peaked in oil production and then it keeps coming down. Second thing I noticed is that if you split this among governments, the 2012 to 2016 government, they also peaked before the election year 2016 at 2015, 37,411,000. And then you also have 2019, 71,439. Can you explain this chart to my viewers and explain what's going on with our oil production? First, Mr. Ajiman.
Yeah, thank you, Bernard, and good evening to your viewers and listeners. So, Bernard, as a fundamental principle, when a field starts producing crude oil or gas, it usually starts with a low production because just started production, then it will rise and then it will peak. So peaking just simply means that it will kind of get to the highest production point in the life of the field and then stabilize. So we call it a plateau, to stabilize for a period and then start declining. The issue with 2015 and 2016 is quite peculiar because it was mostly due to technical challenges experienced after 2024, where a part of the FPSO Kwame Nkrumah that is on the Jubilee field had a fault. It developed a fault. It's called the turret bearing, where the ship actually moves around on.
So you mean after 2014? 2014, not 2024, 2014. Yeah. 2014.
Sorry, after 2014, exactly.
Wonderful.
So, but it got intense basically in 2016 when there was more like a remediation program to kind of repair the faulty turret bearing. So the turret bearing is actually is the central position through which the ship moves. So there was a fault with it, and the Jubilee partners actually took a decision to reduce production and then repair that turret bearing. So that's actually what happened in 2016 that caused the decline in production in 2016. So you see that in 2017, when that remediation program was completed, production actually came on board. But then one of the reasons also with the increased production in 2017 all the way to 2019 was that a new field was brought on board, which was the Sankofa Ginyami field, or the 10 field, was brought on board. So instead of having just one producing field, we had 2 producing fields adding on to production, and that actually pushed the production up from 2017 all the way to 2019. Now, somewhere 2019, another field was brought on board, and that made 2019 production quite high, because now instead of having 2 producing fields, we had 3 producing fields that are coming on stream, and that pushed it to the highest volumes of production that we witnessed in 2019. That is basically the reason for that. Now, from 2019 coming down to 2023, there are basically 3 main challenges. We have operational or technical challenges, and we also have more or less what the country have not done right over that period. The technical challenges were basically that, Jubilee has been in production since December 2010. So naturally, production will plateau, as I mentioned earlier on, and start decreasing. Now, with regards to 10 over that particular period, and in particular in 2023, we had technical challenges where subsurface reservoir challenges, pipeline issues were encountered in the year, and the partners had to kind of fix those challenges. That's with regards to 10. But when you come to Sankofa Ginyami, it's important to let your audience know that Sankofa is predominantly a gas field. Oil is associated with the gas. So whilst you are producing the gas, oil will be coming with the gas. That's the Sankofa Ginyami field. So the level of production you will expect from Sankofa Ginyami will not be the same as the level of production you will expect from, say, 10 and then Jubilee. 10 and Jubilee are oil fields. So gas is rather associated with the oil. But as Jubilee has produced for more like half of its life cycle, and we are experiencing technical challenges with 10, that will drive the decline in your overall production. So that has to do with the technical part. With regards to, let's say, what the country have not done over the period is we've not signed any new petroleum agreements in order to expedite exploration and production processes to bring on stream new fields. We attempted to have a first licensing round, bidding rounds in 2018-2019, but in the perspective of PIAC and its allied CSOs, it was largely unsuccessful due to certain reasons. One of the reasons was the low quality data we presented to industry players, the sizes of blocks that we also presented to industry players, and also certain actions or parallel actions we undertook while we were having this competitive process by engaging certain companies more or less in another door to kind of bring them on board to the industry, thereby having certain companies leaving the shores of Ghana during the process.
All right.
Which PIAC and its allied CSOs have made known to the Ministry of Energy and its agencies. So this is one of the governance or the government issues. The other issue is regulate the inconsistencies in regulatory regimes and the economic challenge we find ourselves, where as we speak currently, even the companies that went through successfully in the first licensing round in 2018-2019, we are still negotiating with them 3-4 years after closing the exercise. We are still in negotiation with them. When it comes to the inconsistencies in governance and regulatory regimes, and then the tax regimes that we have, where ExxonMobil has to leave the shores of Ghana, where when we took the decision in terms of the unitization of the Springfield and the ENI operations in the Afena field,
all right.
where now ENI will take the decision to the International Court of Arbitration, more like the issue to the International Court of Arbitration. So some of these issues, both technical issues and more like income governance issues, that is the reasons why we are witnessing the decline in the production levels of the country, because we have not brought on stream new fields based on how we are approaching investments in the upstream industry.
Thank you. Let me take Ben's view on this. Ben, anything else to add? From what Mr. Ajiman is saying, a lot of this looks like self-inflicted problems, because of course some are technical, but from what he's saying, the second and the third point appear more to be self-inflicted. What do you say, Ben?
Yeah, thanks, Bernard. I think essentially he's touched on all the key components of the problem. But what I would add is that when you discover oil and you inject that into your economy, your first priority is to think through how you sustain oil production to be able to optimize the gains and also not, inject some cyclicality into your economy. Because you remember, as you indicated earlier, 2011 we were the fastest growing economy because we had oil revenues coming in, and suddenly Ghana was doing better than its peers in the sub-region. To be able to sustain that, you require a sustained investment, and you require also a policy retooling that ensure that those investments will come in to be able to, at least worst case scenario, produce the levels that you have started with over a long period of time. And at best also get more oil fields coming in to be able to grow your production. For some reasons. I mean, one is that you are aligning your industries, your businesses to the oil industry. So suddenly you have local businesses that are also operating. We often look at the revenues and ignore other components of contributions that come from the oil sector. You have local content operators who are all dependent on the oil industry. And what you don't want to do is to leave those businesses in limbo. Because if the industry is not active, then you have all these businesses languishing or not having much to do. So you have to read through policy, ensure that you are attracting investment, producing more, deepening activity, so that the overall contribution to the economy grows. And that, for me, that is what we have not been able to manage well, to be able to bring additional fields on stream, to learn from the challenges that we've had with the existing fields. Mark talked about the challenges with the turrets, challenges with some of the production fields. We have known that all our production fields have had challenges. Jubilee started, promising 100,000 barrels per day. It did that for just about a year or two. It declined, and then we had a turret issue. So all of that are supposed to be, feed into our experience broadly, so that we learn from it, and that helps us to think through what we need to do to bring investment, and also manage those risks that are associated with investment, so that we can plan the shocks on our economy much more pragmatically. So as he indicated, we were producing oil, and suddenly the appetite was on how do we get more from what we produce. We retooling fiscal elements, changing the laws and also the practices, but other things also had to change. The political appetite to be so demanding beyond what the law requires also have increased over time, where instead of going through the lay-down processes, as Mark indicated, if you had competitive bidding process, just stay with it and let investors know that consistently that's what you want to apply. But when you have politicians also negotiating while there's a competitive process, everybody is going to go through the competitive process where you can engage a politician to say, this is what I want to do. and then you are granted that. And that's what actually affected the licensing regime. And for the past 4 years or so, we have been paralyzed in the licensing regime. You see Petroleum Commission, GMPC spending millions of dollars doing road shows across the world. They are not attracting any investment, and they are not willing to sit down and ask themselves what is really accounting for the lack of investment in the sector, so we can be proactive to address those problems. When those in your country, those who are already producing, are not incentivized to put in more money, you're only joking thinking that you can bring in more investors.
But is this a general lack of interest from international oil companies in African fields, or is this a Ghana-specific problem? So my question is, are competitor countries within the 2018-2023 period signing new deals? Are they getting new business, or is it a general problem?
I don't think it's a general problem. There is a general constraint on investment. But again, oil is being consumed. The demand is growing, and therefore we need to produce it. So countries that are strategizing around the broad problems globally are still attracting investment. And one example that you can always reference is our next door neighbor, Cote d'Ivoire. That were not producing significant oil. They had the same investors. They had Tullow on that side. They had ENI on that side. And we had the same investors here. And over time, we've seen significant investment, outlay by ENI in the terrain. Discovering some of the massive oil finds that have been made in the sub-region for decades. And now you have Ivory Coast producing oil. They have plans to this year ramp up, the Belen field, which is also operated by ENI. And gradually they're going to be a major oil producer because the terrain has proven to be more friendly to investors, and they keep pouring the money, to be able to produce the oil. The same ENI discovered oil around 2019, more gas, around the same area. And they had proposed even to the Ghana government to be able to fast track the production of that oil to tie back, into the existing infrastructure. That is the FPSO, Ejekumko. They didn't get the necessary approval on time, to be able to bring that oil to production. At the same time, they had litigation issues with the government and some local companies who thought that, the ENI block straddles their field, and therefore were claiming ownership of the oil as part of the oil asset. And that, as we speak, is in arbitration, which perhaps by end of the year we will know where we are. So one, we've not been able to resolve issues to allow investment to happen. So whilst you are roaming around looking for the investors, the narrative globally is that Ghana is not attractive. And that is no to the industry. So if you have Wood Mackenzie, you have all the energy journals saying that Ghana is not attractive, you're only wasting money showing up at events to list what you have or showcase what you have.
And Ghana's lack of attractiveness is not a function of lack of oil reserves or proven reserves. It's more governance and policy issues. It's not as if governance and policy issues, right? Because yes. I'm looking at the figure 4, Jubilee 10 and SGN. I remember there were projections in the past that by 2024 we should have about 5 fields on stream. So what is going on with the lack of new fields? Is it that we don't have enough money ourselves to explore, and therefore if an international partner is not interested, even though the reserves may be there, nobody can prove them? Can you talk a bit about that? Is it the lack of new fields, or is it a question of investment?
Yeah, so the fields that we are setting at this point are the 3, the Jubilee 10 and then the SGN. So those ones, at least we have proven reserves, but there is room for more exploration, and that costs a lot of money. So you need to attract investments into those fields. If you want to do it, if you have money to do it yourself, I mean, it's always the option. But if you don't have money, you always want to attract investment, discount the investment, and then be able to share the profits or the benefits that comes with it. And for me, that is equally good. There are countries that have gone through this, the UAEs and the rest of it. The Americans have been there even to today. And we see the benefits that those investments have achieved in those countries. So you can optimize investment and make sure that you get your fair share of the production. Or if you have money to sink, you can also put in your money. And the option for us since we started production was also be part of the action, empower GMPC for them to be able to drill, produce oil along the line. We have dropped significant amount of money into GMPC. They have not even drilled one well. As we speak, we've done over I think $1.2 billion just on level B, which was supposed to take care of the corporation for them to invest and produce oil. None of the oil companies, the Talos, the ENIs who came into this country came with $1 billion, to be able to explore for oil. So when we make the argument that we can do it for ourselves, we have to check the governance and the politics around how state institutions and corporations work. So we keep dropping money. They are not drilling. They are not investing optimally to be able to give us those returns that we require. But much more significantly is for us to note that whilst we're projecting 500,000 barrels of oil, we had at least the Pecan discoveries, which were then managed by Hess. And then Hess exited, and the governance, again, has impacted these projects so terribly that even as we speak today, we've not been able to bring that project on stream. The original anticipation was that by 2021, we would have had first oil from the Pecan fields. Aker came in, stayed on, and later wanted to divest, which, paid credence to what we kept saying, that all the behavior of that company showed that they were speculative investors trying to amplify their shares and dispose of it. And they held on without the political, antenna to actually detect some of those speculative moves. And therefore, that field is still not in production. They have now recently handed it over to AFC, and they are hanging in the shadows, trying to operate behind AFC. We don't know when FID will be closed for actual development to happen. We understand that they are targeting 2027 production. So these delays have also impacted how much we're able to bring on stream. Last year, we had Talos saying they are investing over $1 billion to bring in 30,000 barrels per day additional oil from the Jubilee Southeast. The data that has been published by Mark and Co. shows that, from PIAC, shows that even though that investment has happened, we are not getting the 30,000 barrels per day. And this is where you also require, a strong national oil company that is party to this whole process to interrogate the numbers. Where is the 30,000 barrels per day that was supposed to come from Jubilee Southeast? Because we had the fanfare, the launch and everything, where the president went to commission it. And we can see that in the data, to show that 30,000 actually came in. We've seen an average of 12,000 per day when we have invested money hoping to get 30,000 barrels per day.
All right. We'll take a short break. This is still the point of view. We're trying to get to the bottom of Ghana's declining oil output, fourth straight year of lower production. And what is sad is each new year is producing lower than the previous year, as the chart would show. There's also been no new oil agreement signed since 2018. But there's also a question of gas. Ghana Gas is indebted to GMPC. We'll look at the gas conversation. Is there a glimmer of hope there? We'll discuss all of that when we come back. Stay with us. Welcome back. So the point of view tonight is talking about the declining oil output in Ghana. We've shown you the charts. My guest, Mark Agyemang from the PIAC, Ben Boakye from the Africa Center for Energy Policy. We've spoken about why the production is in decline. I just wanted to show figure 4 to just show the difference in the three fields. So this is a pie chart showing 2023 production. And Mark, Jubilee is our oldest field, but we seem to be getting the most from it still. Sankof, you said 10 is a gas field, so we shouldn't be too concerned that the oil there is just 14%. But Sankofa is 23%. Now, when you come to table 1 as well, for an annual commercial raw gas production, of course, Jubilee is the oldest. So Jubilee is giving us 562,000 MMSCF, whilst 10 and SDN are giving us much lower. Can you explain what's going on first with figure 4? Because this is supposed to be 2023. Why is Jubilee giving us more than the others? And then if you can also explain table 1. So let's start with figure 4, the total production of crude oil based on the 3 fields.
Yeah, thank you, Bernard. So as for Sankofa, as I mentioned earlier on, it's a gas field. So you will expect that more gas will be produced from that field than oil. Now, Jubilee field is a bigger field. The discovery there was bigger than the discovery made in 10. So despite Jubilee being produced for a while, production from that field is still quite substantial. And also, Jubilee field had a new producing field being brought on stream, though not meeting the target, but it was brought on stream. As Ben mentioned earlier on, Jubilee Southeast was brought on stream, and the data clearly shows that they are not meeting the 30,000 barrels per day target that we had fanfare on. But it's adding up to Jubilee production, and it's had quite limited technical challenges over the period that we have reported on. But with regards to 10 field, 1, it's a smaller field, and 2, in 2023, it had substantial technical challenges, and no additional wells, more like producing wells or injection wells, were drilled on that particular field. So they have been more or less shifted to 2024 and probably 2025 to take care of the technical challenges that the partners experienced in 2023. So basically, this is the reason why we are getting more production from Jubilee than 10 and also Sankofa Dynamic, and it also feeds into the revenue we are getting, because as we all know, revenue is a function of price and production. So as you produce more and prices are right, you get more from your producing areas. Yes, please.
Let's go to table 1, commercial raw gas production. So 10 is our main gas field. I see that Jubilee is still the leading supply of gas. I'm guessing AG is associated gas, NAG is non-associated gas. And I see that Jubilee has given us cumulatively the most gas, 10 the second highest, and then Sankofa the third. Can you speak to this briefly?
Yes, so if you look at the Jubilee figures, we are looking at cumulative from commercial gas production period, which is 2014 coming to 2023. So if you sum it up, that's why Jubilee is giving us more, because as I said, it's a big discovery. It's important to note that we're producing gas before 2014, but we hadn't commercialized it because the infrastructure was not put in place at that point, to that period, to commercialize the gas we're producing. So we're basically using it for fuel, reinjection, and then flaring. Now, if you look at the utilization bits, as the table clearly shows, you will see that so this is the production as we are talking about. But if you look at the individual production, if you add the associated gas of Sankofa Dynamic and the non-associated gas of Sankofa Dynamic, it's actually more than, just for the 2023 year period, it's actually more than what we obtained from Jubilee. But then if you disaggregate it, then the
so you are talking about table 2. So if we go to table 2, for example, raw gas utilization, which is export, injection.
Yes.
So this is an interesting point. So Jubilee 10 SGN or Sankofa has the most of the 3 for last year.
Exactly, yes.
And which is what figure?
So you realize it has 126 million SCF. Jubilee had 77, and then 10 had 50. because with Sankofa Ginyami, as I said, it's predominantly a gas field. But if you look at the utilization bit, you will realize that we are still flaring, despite the fact that Ghana has a zero flaring policy, but we are still flaring. And to flare, you need permission from EPA to flare. We are using some for fuel, and we are re-injecting part of the gas that is being produced. But if you look at the export, that is where I think most Ghanaians will be interested in. If you look at the exports, out of 77 of production, we are exporting 34, and Jubilee and 10 exports are basically to the Atrabu gas processing plant. Sankofa Ginyami gas is processed on the FPSO and then exported to their Sanzule receiving point, where from there it joins the Ghana gas pipeline to Takrade receiving point. Now, Sankofa Ginyami, you all know that the contract of taking the gas is a take or pay. So whether you take or you don't, you pay for it. Though there is more or less you have the more like the opportunity to have an more like gas that you pay for, let's say 10 million standard cubic feet, and you are able to take 5 million. The extra 5 million that you've not able to take, but you've paid for it, we call it makeup gas, that you have a period that you can take that gas for free. So because of the agreement we have with ENI, which is take or pay, the focus is usually on the Sankofa Ginyami gas to more like offtake that gas as a priority gas than what we are looking for.
Why are we injecting
gas?
Why are we injecting so much gas? So for example, of the 100 and of the 126 that Sankofa produces, about 47 is injected, right? For the 50 that 10 produces, 36 is injected. What is injection, and why do we do it?
Yeah, so you usually inject gas usually to maintain reservoir pressure to increase production.
Okay.
So as you are producing from a field, initially the natural energy of the field will drive production. But with time, that natural energy will kind of decline. So to maintain that natural energy, you have various options of maintaining that. So gas re-injection is one way, water re-injection is another way, and other processes to kind of maintain reservoir energy are applied depending on the reservoir structure and the formation structure. So we re-inject gas to basically maintain reservoir pressure, and also to kind of maintain or stay below or within the allowable gas flaring limits that EPA has more like permitted a company to do. Because there's and also kind of feed into the infrastructure, the gas processing infrastructure available to either the company or to the country. So you do all these things to kind of optimize your gas supply or distribution pathways that you have, whether re-injection, whether for fuel, whether for flaring, or whether to the market. So that is how you arrange some of these things to optimize
that's fair enough. I guess the big question listeners will ask us is, why are we using only 4% of our gas as fuel, and why as much as 11% is being flared? So together is it that we don't have fuel need, or when you say fuel, you're using it only within the context of the production? Because I thought gas is a good fuel for vehicles, right? People use it to cook. So why are you producing so much gas and using only 4% for fuel?
Yes, so when we say fuel here, we are talking of the fuel needs of the production platform.
Okay, fair enough.
What comes to the state as fuel, or to the citizens as fuel, power generation, and for derivative production like LPG and the likes, is what we call export. So when you see fuel here, we are talking of fuel for production purposes. just limited to the platform and limited to transportation to the processing site.
Wonderful. So
that is why it is quite small.
But why are you flaring 11% of your gas as a country? Is it that you don't have need for it? Is it that your export capacity is low? Because flaring, I guess, is just burning the gas and wasting it. Why are you?
Exactly.
Why are you?
Actually burning the gas. So flaring means burning.
Yes. But we need gas. So why are you flaring 11% of your gas as a country?
Yeah, so you look at the infrastructure available and the market demand for the product. In 2023, at a point, in fact, demand outstripped supply to the extent that VRA actually even had to rely on Nigerian gas, which they had to bring into the country because the infrastructure availability to process and supply the market actually is a bit limited. If you look at Ghana gas, and the gas, that's the raw gas that goes to Ghana gas. Actually, as we are speaking currently, there is a bit of an issue between Ghana gas and some of the operators upstream, where Ghana gas is saying that they have the ability to take more than what they are currently receiving because the compression pressure at some of the operators, upstream operators end. It's not allowing the full intake of raw gas from the upstream end, which the parties have actually called on PIAC to kind of mediate. I know that Petroleum Commission is kind of currently mediating on this issue. Because the upstream operators are also not agreeing to the line of argument of Ghana Gas, because they are saying that they have optimal operation capacity at their end to supply whatever Ghana Gas needs, but Ghana Gas is also alleging something differently. And that is affecting how much can be supplied to the infrastructure capacity. Now,
all right. Let me take Ben's comment on gas briefly. Ben, you spoke to me about this before, the fact that we are still flaring gas. What is wrong with us in the sense that gas is really a transition fuel? We are moving from crude burning to gas before we get into fossils, into non-fossils. So gas is great. Why it seems as if we've not optimized our gas? What's the problem?
Yeah, I mean, many things. We flare. I mean, some amount of flaring will always be done for operational safety, on the field. But beyond that, also because we have limited processing facility, we are not able to bring enough gas through the export pipeline, particularly gas from TEN and Jubilee, because we are locked to the Ghana gas facility, which is about 150, and usually do about 110, 120 SCF of gas. So we are limited on that score, and therefore either we re-inject to maintain pressure, or we flare, some amount in excess of what is operationally required to flare. And the last time we actually did the estimates, the gas that we had flared was in excess of $300 million between 2019 and 2021. So that's how significant our flare is. And these are gases that we could have optimized or commercialized for power generation. And you do recognize that even currently, the challenge we have in Ghana is limited gas supply. So we're not bringing enough gas onshore or to the export lines to be able to generate enough electricity from it. So we now have to flare the gas and then go and buy liquid fuel to be able to generate electricity. And that's the travesty that we have in our energy sector at this point.
We'll take a breather, think through that, and come back and look at a few other issues. Ghana Gas is also indebted to GMPC, and the cash waterfall mechanism doesn't seem to be working, although GMPC has managed to recover some monies from bust. We'll deal with all of that and more on this edition of The Point of View, looking at Ghana's dwindling oil sector fortunes. Stay with us. Welcome back. The Point of View tonight is reflecting on the latest PIAC report for 2023. Three big headlines. Ghana's oil production is in decline. It's been that way since 2020. So basically it's been coming down since it peaked at 2019. We also have the fourth straight year of no new oil contracts signed. But the third headline is that Ghana Gas owes GNPC quite a lot of money. Ben, let me start with you on this one. So we've made a lot of noise about the cash waterfall mechanism for the sector, which we believe was to help optimize cash flow. Why on earth is Ghana Gas, with all the gas we have, still owing GNPC? What's going on there?
I think it comes down to, the analysis we've done over the years and the conversation we've had over the power sector challenges, which has implication for the broader economy and also the oil industry, optimizing the oil industry broadly. It also significantly impacts on your ability to attract investment. So on one level, any investor coming into Ghana to get a license or an agreement to produce oil has a fair chance also producing gas. So when your gas market is not attractive, or they know that when you discover gas, you'll be in trouble with payments, that affects who really want to risk it to come to Ghana to come in. But when you take exploration license, you don't know whether you're going to discover oil or you're going to discover gas. You go in only to find what you get. Like the way ENI discovers significant volumes of gas instead of oil, even though in the agreement, oil is always a priority in those agreements. So when the gas market, you supply the gas for power generation, and the power system is not able to pay for the gas, you only accumulate debt. So Ghana Gas would, sell the gas or transmit the gas to the power sector. It will be used to generate electricity, and that electricity will be consumed. People will pay for it. Some will steal the power, and the space only creates debt. And because it's government agencies, nobody cares whether Ghana Gas gets the money to be able to pay GNPC or not. And that's what has stayed with us right from the outset, in 2015 when we got Ghana Gas operational. To date, they've just been racking up the debt in the name of ECG and then VRA, but we know that it will not be paid, and everybody is comfortable with that. And we have not been able to fix that common denominator, which is the ECG, to be able to address, the cash situation of that sector. When we say Ghana Gas owe GNPC, they essentially owe us, because that money would have found its way into the PHF, or if you like, the budget, so that some development outcomes could be achieved from those revenues that would have come from the gas. So to simplify it, what it means is that the gas that is produced and sold to the market, we don't get any benefit from it. It's just like going to buy gas from anywhere and then using it for power generation and accumulating that. We don't get any benefit.
And most of the gas that is exported to us is for power generation, I believe. So that ECG is the distributor of power. So in a sense, ECG's inefficiency affects GNPC's viability in that long chain between ECG, Gridco, VRA, Ghana Gas, GNPC. So basically
everybody else's viability, even the upstream oil producer. So in most cases, and for the Talos and the rest, if you owe them, because they are producing oil, they only take it from oil revenue. So it may not become a headline, but they would have taken their money because you're not paying them.
So only GNPC suffers because they are
because they need the direct cash from the gas that should have been sold. But for Jubilee and the rest, if you don't pay, they have other sources of taking the money.
So let me ask a simplistic question. You have gas that you produce. Why don't they sell it to private companies to sell to us to use for cooking? Or it's not LPG, it's a different kind of gas, right? Or people use gas to drive, right? People are wondering, if you have all this gas, why are you using it to produce power which you cannot really pay for? Just to talk to me about the economics of using gas for power generation versus using it for fuel.
So the gases are different. The one that comes to our homes, the LPG, is usually butane and propane. So those ones are more efficient and heavier. So when you bottle it, you can use it for a longer period of time. What we usually refer to in this conversation is the methane, which is a leaner and lighter gas. So you need huge volumes, which is usually piped all the way from the production field through the processing plant to the end user. So you hardly will store that. To even store that in current, with the current technology, means you have to freeze it to be able to store significant volumes, and that's what they call LNG. So it's usually the methane that we refer to in these conversations as gas. But when Ghana Gas processes the gas that comes from Jubilee, there is some amount of propane that is gotten, which then becomes the LPG. That one is sold to the market, and that, I think at this point, is about 38-40% of our domestic need. So we are using that gas, but the significant volumes, which is the methane, only comes for usually power generation and some few industrial consumers for ceramics and others who are also enjoying some political subsidies, also creating its own level of debt because the politician will just sanction who should get it. And then it creates debt and then we have to pay for it. So that is how we have mismanaged the gas space. The gas comes to generate electricity. We are not able to raise money and government pays for it. As we speak, government of Ghana owes close to $400 million to Standard Chartered Bank because ENI also has a much more robust arrangement where when government doesn't pay for the gas, they go to Standard Chartered and go and take down their LCs. So they draw down the LCs and Ghana government has to find money to go and pay. If they don't pay, it is converted to a loan with interest of 4% for a year. And if Ghana government doesn't pay, they pay with the interest a year. So I think over time, Ghana government has seen that taking that as a loan and paying a year after is cheaper than going to the perhaps Eurobond or anywhere else to make money. So it's become a cyclical debt, opportunity where we consume the gas. We are not busy to get the ECG to pay for the gas that has been used to generate power. We just convert it to debt, and a year later, government finds money to go and pay with interest.
Let me end with a recommendation from Mr. Ajiman. So you have made recommendations, and today we are not discussing the managing of the money, but in terms of production decline that we've discussed, what is PIAC's most important recommendation to the state and to Parliament as to what to do?
Bernard, our recommendation is very simple and straightforward, as we've always said it in our discussions with them in the various meeting rooms, that the investment climate should be attractive, there should be consistency in the regulatory regime, and the government, through the Petroleum Commission, should do the needful in order to attract investment into the upstream industry by learning from the lessons from the first licensing round. Because the energy transition and its effect are real, and they will catch up with us very soon if we don't do the needful to develop our upstream industry and bring out the resources that are in the industry. That is basically the recommendation that we will make to the government.
We'll leave it here. Thank you very much. Mark Abuaje is a technical manager at the Public Interest and Accountability Committee, PIAC, which has been releasing its latest work on Ghana's petroleum sector. This is their 2023 annual report. We also had Ben Boache of the Africa Center for Energy Policy helping us appreciate the context for this discussion. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.